welcome to JMC Live, guys. It is Saturday, the 16th of April. A lot of things are happening, and if you guys have noticed, we've kind of moved location in our office, so we changed things up. We're actually sitting in front of our green screen that we're going to try and be using for the next upcoming shows. One of the things that we need to go into immediately, and I want to share this with you. I'm seeing it from Twitter's breaking news, and I'm going to pop it up here for you guys in another window. This is the Weather Channel official Twitter page. 5 seconds ago on TweetDeck, 3-day tornado report total is now over 200. I had to swallow because I have to read this again. Over 200. 17 minutes ago, 85 tornado reports, 200 plus reports since Thursday. And they have a clickable map that you can look at. And I'm trying to get it pulled up here. I don't know if it's going to load properly. But guys, as this map loads, look at this. Look at this map we're looking at here. I'll mix it up so you can see me and you can see the map at the same time. We have stuff all the way from South Carolina all the way up to North Carolina. This is crazy. And I don't know if you guys can hear. It's kind of windy here in Ohio. It's not too entirely bad, but I just wanted to say that we're praying for those that are affected by these storms and the various other things that are happening in today's society, because it gets so mixed up and locked up and everything that's happening. So I thought I would actually share that with you right off the top of the bat, because I know a lot of people are worried about their family and their loved ones and all the other things that are happening. Well, let me just give you an idea of what we're going to talk about. I mean, that's one of the things. As you know, over 17 people have been killed. Let me just tell you a few of the highlights of what's going to happen tonight on the show. If you saw the preview, you already know about some of this. We're going to get a little more in depth. Plus, our after show is going to have a Bible study. We're going to talk about Lady Gaga and Judas. We're going to talk about the Passover. We're going to talk about the possibility discovery of the nails on Jesus' cross. Easter's coming up, so we're going to talk about controversy of Easter eggs or Easter spears or spring spears or whatever you want to call them. The Civil War anniversary's coming up, and it's going on right now. It's currently happening, and people are talking and still debating about things. We have some end times prophecy being fulfilled with Wells Fargo Bank talking about adding microchips into their credit cards to moving towards more of a cashless society. We'll also talk about the National Day of Prayer, 7th Court upholding that. And we have some updates on the Francis Fox Piven and Cornel West statements. We have some exclusive audio clip that we'll play for you guys. And then at the end of the second half of the hour, we're going to go into Philadelphia. Some of you guys have heard this on the Janet Medford show and other places. But I thought we would talk about it as well. The Teens Take Control site in Philadelphia, allowing children as young as 11 years old to get condoms. All this coming up tonight on JMC Live. So, without further ado, let's get into this stuff. And personally, I'm going to go straight to the top. And what I mean by the top, I mean by the Lady Gaga story. Miranda, before we start communicating about Lady Gaga, you being a female, and we already know you specifically don't agree with Lady Gaga. Miranda and I, and the reason why I'm asking her this is I want her to rephrase what she said to me personally earlier. I read the lyrics of this new Judas song to her.
I have it. I have the lyrics.
And I want you to read the lyrics for us, and I want you to tell us what you think as you read them. Starting with, I know you can't read it all.
No, well, I think we'll just focus on the last verse because that's the most disturbing one.
Yeah.
Because she actually... Well, actually, the bridge is more disturbing. Sorry to say that.
The bridge is more disturbing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get into this, Miranda.
She basically sings about having a love affair, sex affair with Judas Iscariot, the disciple that betrayed Jesus. And it just so happens this is all coming out right before Easter, of course, to make things, even worse. And the bridge of this song is very disturbing. And it says, in the most biblical sense, I am beyond repentance. Fame hooker, prostitute wench, vomits her mind. But in the cultural sense, I just speak in future tense. Judas kiss me, if offensed, or wear ear condom next time.
And what's happening with this verse is she's mixing not only the story of Judas betraying Jesus, she's also talking about when Peter cut someone's ear off. So there's tons of biblical overtones. And one of the things that Miranda forgot about that I'm going to mention, in the beginning of this song, there's that whole Gaga, la la weird thing that's going on. Miranda and I felt this weird vibe, particularly with this song, because I didn't see we played the song, we listened to the song before we read the lyrics.
We didn't even
get past the introduction, whatever.
I told you
and Miranda was like freaking out because it was
turn
like
it off.
It just got so bad and intense for her.
And
it was nasty.
It wasn't when she was singing the actual lyrics. It was when she was doing this ooh ah. I'm in love with Judas.
Yeah.
It's like this chant thing she does, and it just absolutely
creepy.
Freaked me out.
And I know Christians sit here and say Lady Gaga's cool.
It sounds like a lot of her other songs, but there was just something behind this chant thing, this whole little ad-lib thing that just, I don't know, there was just something almost demonic. And I thought there was a line in there about her going to the dark side and loving a demon. Yeah,
the demon thing's at the end with the outro, I believe. The outro or something like that. The demon within or something. Anyway, I could probably look it up for you guys. But,
oh, here it is. I want to love you, but something's pulling me away from you. Jesus is my virtue. Judas is the demon I cling to.
You hear this, folks?
This is the lyrics.
Judas is the demon I cling to.
And this song, kids are going to be listening to this. Teenagers, young adults, and so on. They're going to be listening to this. They're going to be listening how she clings to a demon. And
and when we looked at her YouTube page, we particularly saw a post, and everyone's like, they love her, they think she's great.
This is a great song.
I know people all across the country that claim to be Christians, and they think Lady Gaga is great to work out to or have sex while they're married and all this. And I'm like, I don't even want to. No, it's insane. It's vulgar. It's gross. I don't get it. People are weird, but that happens. Now, you have any final thoughts about that, Miranda? Or it's just so gross you can't think of anything else?
My whole thing is that society, secular music, secular media that's out there, that's all they're about. They're all about degrading the scriptures. They're all about degrading the Christian faith. And we've seen atheists saying this to us. We don't understand. Certain atheists that are friends of ours, and even atheists that are well known, they're even saying, wait a minute, why are the Christians getting picked on so much? Why are they writing these songs like this? Why are they attacking them? Because it doesn't make any sense. A lot of people probably may want to retaliate, write horrible things to her, but you know what? Let's rise above that. She needs prayer.
Yeah.
She needs to know the true love of Jesus. She doesn't need to be clinging to the possible love of this demon, quote, that she's singing about. She needs to know the pure and unconditional love of Jesus Christ and truly understand what he went through for her. Because she's lost. And it doesn't matter how many songs she writes that are good or bad, unless she knows who Jesus is. she's lost. Until she truly comes to find that love. Mm-hmm. That she's trying to fill in this hole in her life with so much stuff, and obviously it's not working. Or she wouldn't be doing this. Mm-hmm. She wouldn't be writing these kind of songs. She's trying to fill it with lust and carnality, and it's not working. And that's what we need to pray for her. We really need to bring these people. These are the people that are influencing our youth.
Yeah, I mean,
and we need to bring them to the altar, and we need to pray for them. We need to know what's going on in our world today so we can fight against it. We don't need to promote this stuff. We're not promoting. We're denouncing it. We are saying, people, you need to wake up. And for Christians out there who think it's okay to listen to her, open your eyes. Open your eyes and realize that she is singing about having sex with a demon. Practically, that's what she's singing about.
Yeah.
Do we want our children? Do we want the people that in our church listening to this kind of music on Monday through Saturday, saying, "I'm going to sleep. Jesus is my demon that I cling to." But then we go to this church Sunday morning, we're like, Jesus is my Savior I cling to. We have to draw the line somewhere. We can't ride the fence. It goes back to what we talked about last week. We can't ride the fence, because if we ride the fence so long, sooner or later, we're going to get splinters in our butt.
All right, now we're going to go to the discovery of the nails from Jesus' cross. Now, I'm waiting for more factual proof on this.
A lot of people are really
This is on routers. It's kind of like the waiting on those codices happen.
Which the codices we found out today, this week, people are really
questioning about the codices.
They're really questioning it.
The question about these nails. I just wanted to quickly highlight. There's two things out there.
It seems every time Easter comes around, things like this start to happen, publicity and so on. People try to seek some fame and fortune. I really hope they're not lying. I hope this isn't just, a gimmick they're trying to pull here, because it would be great if it was factual.
Yeah.
And legitimate. So we just have to hope it is. But it also, they're making a film about this. The whole thing about possibly finding the nails that were in Jesus' cross. So we just have to hope that this is legitimate and it's not fake. And if it is, may we just move on from it and learn from mistakes.
And I have to give a quick shout out, because Days of Revolution just showed up in our chat room from Georgia. I think you guys are awesome, dude. I know that's completely off topic, but anyway, I wanted to give you guys a quick shout out. And yeah, they have a free download on their Facebook page, Days of Revolution Band. So check it out. It reminds me of a mixture of Flyleaf meets Plum meets Third Day meets... Well, anyway, check them out. They're awesome. I think they're the great friends of ours that have been here for a while. So anyway, I have some other news. And this is going to be a heated thing, because me and Miranda are from two different polar opposites. Okay, here we go. 150th anniversary of the Civil War. Now, me from Texas, and most Northerners are Yankees, or whatever you want to call them. Some people will be offended I use the word Yankees. Well, we were called, I don't know, I'll let Miranda say. What were the...
As far as I know, you're called Confederates.
Confederates, or whatever. Anyway.
You were called Yankees, you were called Confederates. But now you're kind of a Yankee because you're living in the North.
Well, yeah, I live in Ohio, but anyway, people don't even consider Ohio a state, depending on who you talk to.
Oh, don't start that, please. Don't.
So, anyway, I'll explain that on another show. The debate that is still going on is whether or not, why did the Civil War happen, and what exactly was the war about? Well, there are three things that the war was about. One was slavery, which was actually a Tier 2 or Tier 3 level. Two was about monies and different things that happened in their time. And another thing was about power, because if you think about what was happening, the northern states were doing good and finding different ways to not have slavery, while the slaves states in the South, they had a lot of money. It was an art, depending on if you're Republican or a Democrat, there's a big argument over how this happened. So, the truth of the matter, the Civil War was over 3 issues and not just one, because the Civil War continued later on, after the fact of all the craziness that was going on in society. I have to tell you, it's nuts. But there is hope and there is time. And
so,
what do you think, Miranda? I mean, what were you taught? I mean,
okay. Well, let's talk about what you were taught first.
Me, okay.
You know, your part of the country was the one who rebelled. And
now here's the thing that
I want to hear what you were taught, because
we were taught that, and I'll have to look it up, and I didn't look it up because I want you guys to look this up. Here's something that happened. There was an actual war where back then, everyone stood in a line, Confederate, and they were standing in line with their flags.
Like the British.
And like the British. That's the way they used to fight back then. Somebody shot early without giving the order, and I think it was a Southerner, and it started a battle. This led to the mass news being told, well, this guy started fighting first. No, this guy started fighting first. So that helped cultivate a bigger fight. The other side, they catapulted this big craziness. The other thing was, like I said, the southern states, Georgia, Florida, Texas, Louisiana, etc., the plantations were where all the money was. The sugar and the things that the slaves were... And the cotton. And the things that the slaves were creating was bringing in a surplus amount of money. The northern states were struggling. So it was also about money. And at the same time, it was about slavery. It was 3 things mixed together. If you got rid of the slaves, you still had the money issue. If you still had the fight, the early battle, and you had all these other things happen. And throughout the war, different things kept changing the way the war was happening.
Okay, so this
because a lot of people were getting killed, a lot of things were happening, and there at the end, the reason why the South stopped is because they agreed that slavery, they didn't want the slavery going on. There was a lot of talks going on. I mean, think about it. George Washington retreated and survived for so many times. That so many other people think about Lee down in the South and everything else. I mean, there's just a big... I don't know, who do you remember most besides George Washington? Is that what you remember the most?
George Washington wasn't in the Civil War.
I know, I'm talking about like later on, but like for like American history, who do you remember the most? Who do you remember during the Civil War?
Sherman.
Lee.
Abraham Lincoln.
Lincoln survived so many battles.
What I was taught was mainly about slavery, because Ohio was the main hub to get slaves out of the South to freedom, because Ohio connects with Canada, and so get them across the Ohio River into Ohio. They were in the Underground Railroad. Many of here in Chillicothe, over in Frankfort, where my grandparents lived, there are houses that were actually used to hide slaves and take them to freedom. And so that was the main. That's mainly what I was talking about. That the fight was about slavery, because if we ended slavery, then the Southerners, the Confederates, they would not have a way to make money. And so they would be poor. And so that's why we fought, because we wanted slavery to end, and they didn't. And so they wanted more rights. They wanted to succeed from the Union and start their own little country, basically.
Yep.
And they didn't want to follow what Washington wanted to do. They were like, we want to do what we want to do. And that's what I was taught.
Yeah. And that's the crazy thing. I mean, when I was a kid, basically you were taught about the slavery, but when you went to high school and then you went to college level classes, you end up learning about...
This is just high school. We're not going to college.
But you end up learning about more of it.
We're just talking about high
school. Basically, it's going to be some kind of argument, and it still is over an argument over how this happened. But at first, the war wasn't about slavery. It was about money. It was about power and different things. And then it was an argument.
But without their slaves, they would not have the money, and they wouldn't have the power.
But here's the thing.
That's what I was talking about.
It was about slaves, but it was about the states' rights and federal rights over slaves. So the root key was the argument, as we still have, state and federal, because that was the thing. The federal wanted to come in and take the slaves away, which was something eventually they
wanted to free them because it was wrong.
Yeah. And I'm not arguing it's not wrong.
Now, I will say this. My family was from Virginia, ancestors of mine. They had a plantation, the Carter family, and they had slaves. Do I agree with that? No. I do not agree that my ancestors should have had slaves. Am I proud that my family came from the South? Kinda. Not really.
Kinda not really?
Kinda not really.
Kinda not really?
Because they did have slaves. They did make a living off the suffering of others, and I do not agree with it. I mean, I'm sure if you would even look back in your ancestry, you would see they probably did have slaves too.
Oh yeah, see, I don't know about that. As far as I know, my family, Kentucky.
Your family was in oil.
No, but no. Well, yeah. On one side was the oil, but before that, there were slaves, but a lot of them came from overseas in Scotland. I'm a Scottish descendant.
MacLeod.
Yeah, I'm MacLeod. Anyway.
You're a Highlander.
Anyway, this has no. I can't transition from that. I'm just gonna go cold turkey. Eggs. We all like eggs. This is the season of the egg, as I call it, because people celebrate Easter. And what is Easter? Well, depending on if you studied Beowulf in high school or junior high, or you saw the weird movie with Angelina Jolie, whatever, you learned that a lot of literature and a lot of celebrations have merged Christian, Protestant, Catholic beliefs with pagan beliefs. The same is true with Easter. And if you're looking in the chat and you see the screen right now, you're looking at a Seattle town calling them spring spears. Now, I have friends that want to argue with me. It should stay Easter, or it shouldn't have anything at all. Why not let the world do whatever it wants? I want to celebrate the resurrection of Jesus, so I call that Resurrection Week. And it starts with the Passover right now. And we go, through the Passover, and then we go through Good Friday, and then Christ's return. This Seattle elementary school is not the only organization using spring over Easter. The city parks department has removed Easter from all of its advertised egg hunts. I think it's a stand, but the problem is this is a government organization removing the word Easter because it has religious tones. It's not being done because they don't realize Easter has nothing to do with eggs. It's being removed because they're trying to slap Christians in the face. So this is a two-sided sword here. Miranda, what are your thoughts?
Well, there's no mention of Easter eggs in the Bible.
No Easter eggs in the Bible. Why is that, Miranda?
Because the eggs come from the pagan belief about fertility. Because the spring is when everything starts to grow and the animals come out and babies are born and the baby rabbits are born and all the little chicks are born and the egg was to symbolize fertility. Mm-hmm. And many Christians today do not even celebrate Easter with getting their kids eggs and bunnies and all that stuff. They think it's wrong. While others think there's nothing wrong with it. So it really, what has God laid on your heart? What is the conviction that God has laid on your heart? Search the scriptures, because it says the scriptures don't indicate that. My parents did have us hunt Easter eggs and do all that stuff and give us Easter baskets and little shoes and dresses and new hats to wear to church and so on. And is it right or is it wrong? Because if you make it about Jesus, is it okay or is it still pagan? Are you still
call them Jesus eggs? That's a little sexual for me, though. I can't handle that.
My whole thing is, really, we need to read the scripture.
And see, here's the big deal. just like today, we have churches that are all over the place. Some people say they want them in a bar. Some people want them in a movie theater. Some people want them on the street, wherever. The reason why Easter has Easter eggs is because the original creators of the idea wanted to merge the world's view of culture of the time, which was the bonnets and the candies and the cooking, and they would have a whole weekend of it. Some people had parades. People have heard the Easter parade song or seen the movie or the cartoons and stuff. So then they created this little rabbit and they created all this other stuff. And I remember when I was a kid, I got stuff on Easter and I didn't really know why other than there was a rabbit. And then one day there's no more rabbit and it's a cartoon or it's not real. And like the whole Santa Claus thing, it's not real.
And now we have the new cartoon movie.
And now we got Hop and now I can't. Don't even say it.
The bunny poops out jelly beans.
I can't eat jelly beans anymore.
He's like, look what I can do.
I'm like, no more jelly beans for me. After seeing this I've seen it on the internet. I've seen it. I've seen it in the store.
I mean, it's not supposed to be gross. It's supposed to show that he can. This is how he makes candy or something. I don't know.
I don't know. That's just crazy stuff.
Took it to a whole other level there. But it looked like a cute cartoon. It does look like a cute cartoon.
Wow, that's just too much.
But have we, I remember back when I was a kid and even older, for Easter weekend, they would play the 10 Commandments on TV. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they still do that regularly. I would hope they do. But like NBC would be playing the 10 Commandments, which had to do with the Passover for the Jews, because that's when the Passover happened, was when the angel of death passed through, and whoever didn't have the blood around the doorposts, their firstborn would die. And it was the last plague that went through Egypt. And why do we talk about that? Why can't that be our focus? If Easter is supposed to be about Jesus, why...
Here, I got something more radical for you. Okay. Why don't we have a parade?
There we go.
On a Friday. And either set up at the end...
It's not really a parade.
Have a parade where at the end you crucify Jesus Christ.
Okay, Jared.
And a fictitious thing.
No, what you said earlier.
This is what I want to
do. The thing that you said earlier.
Or, what I mean...
Have a hearse. Have a funeral procession.
Yeah. Have a funeral. You know, we do it for troops, and my wife, and I'm going to pause for a second. My wife has got her article posted in the Chillicothe Gazette in remembrance of Josh Geyer, and we'll talk more about that later. But why don't we have a funeral procession for Jesus Christ on Good Friday, and then on Sunday we have a parade celebrating His birth.
No, His resurrection, Jared.
His birth, His resurrection, His life, everything. Why not just make it an all-in-all one big party palooza? Why not? Do you realize that town would probably be in so much trouble?
But He wasn't born on Easter.
Doesn't matter.
I mean,
let's do it on Christmas. Let's do it on Easter. Let's just do it. I think it'd be great. And right before the break, I'm going to say this is good news. The 7th Circuit Court upholds National Day of Prayer. I think this is great news. I think that it's another win for the Christians, and I believe we need to move to a better, perfect world where Christ can be heard and Christ can be moved in society. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk more about current events. We have a lot of things we want to cover. Don't forget, if you stick around long enough, we will have a Bible study on the after show, guys. Yes, on the after show, a Bible study at 10 o'clock. We'll see you in a few minutes. We're going to take a quick break. Welcome back to JMC Live, guys. Like I said at the break, the 7th Day Court upholds the National Day of Prayer. And for those of you in the chat, you can also check out Miranda's article about remembrance of Josh Geyer, for those of you in the chat. And we'll also post a link to that on our recorded videos.
You want to talk a little bit more about it?
And we'll talk a little bit about it too. I want to just cover this real quick. The 7th Circuit Court of Appeals in Chicago struck down in an unanimous decision federal judge Barb Crabb's opinion that a law establishing a day of observance was unconstitutional. That came almost 1 year ago. So now we fast forward to now on April 14th. Oh, that was 2010. Now today's ruling sends a message to Judge Barb Crabb and any other activist judge who would rewrite the Constitution to advance a hostile treatment of religion in public life. This is Perkins, a Family Research Council president, Tony Perkins. He states, "This is the perfect example of a harassing lawsuit that should have been dismissed at the outset." Miranda, your thoughts?
I think that we need to remember what our Constitution says. Our First Amendment says freedom of religion.
Mm-hmm.
We need to remember that. And we need to uphold that. Or these freedom from religion people are going to continue to take our rights away.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where we can't even open a clothing store that even like the Salvation Army has. They're not going to, if these people continue to get their way, we won't even be able to have a Salvation Army clothing store out there because it's Christian.
Ouch.
It promotes Christianity, it promotes possibly religion, and it doesn't need to be there. However, do you see any atheist, non-freedom, non-religion clothing stores really out there?
Not really, no. I don't see that at all.
So I think without the kindness and generosity of the Christian community, once again, there would not be a place for people to get help. There would not be places for people to get food. Because these organizations are the ones that are flourishing. And they are truly out there helping people.
Oh, yeah. And most people don't realize this. And if we allow
our freedoms to be taken away, that over 200 years ago was written into law, longer than these people have been alive, and that were founded on Christian values, Judeo-Christian values, we are going to lose our country.
Oh, yeah.
The foundation of our country will crumble.
People need to wake up and understand.
And we need to continue to fight like this judge did to throw out these cases because it tramples on the freedoms of the people. Mm-hmm. They have the freedom to go in there and say and do what they do. Why don't we have the freedom? Why aren't we allowed to just have a Bible on our desk without being taken to court for over 2 years now? This one man in Ohio, who was a teacher, he got fired. He had a Bible on his desk, and they tried to chunk up these charges against him, that he was doing things to students, and he wasn't. We can't even have a Bible on our desk in school anymore. We need to step it up, people. We need, in other countries, Christians in other countries are willing to die and be in the face of imprisonment just to say, I love Jesus Christ. I follow Jesus Christ. Here in America, we're too worried about being politically correct. And we're just throwing our freedoms away that people in other countries are fighting for. We've already got these freedoms. Why don't we continue to fight for them? Mm-hmm. And support people like this judge who will throw out these cases. I don't care. Let the atheists have their own type of religion. But I don't attack their... They could believe to not believe anything they want to believe. That is their right. But why attack us because we do believe in something? I don't want to attack them. I just want to leave them alone. They can do whatever they want to do. That's their right. Mm-hmm. But why? Just because you don't agree with somebody, why do you have to attack them?
Yeah, I think it's crazy. It's totally nuts.
To the point where you want to take their freedoms away. Lady Gaga has the right to go sing these songs if she wants to in our country. Mm-hmm. That's her choice. She can do what she wants. But we need to pray for her.
Oh, yeah. Those of you that are actually in the chat, you've seen this slide. And I picked this slide on purpose. The Future Watch slide. If you look at Revelation 13, verses 16 and 17, He causes all, both great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive the mark on their right hand or their foreheads, that no one may be able to buy or sell except who has the mark. Now, in 2002, Digital Angel technology, which eventually got involved with Verichip, which currently now is Positive ID, and there are several other RFID companies that exist on the market in the world in different various places. I don't know if any of you guys use Wells Fargo, but some of you may not after this. It all depends on how you feel about what I'm about to share with you. Microchips. They seem to be a harmless thing that gets extremely hot in computers. Technology is advancing like a wildfire. And I don't know if you've seen them at Burger King or your grocery store. It has this little bitty square circular thing, and it has kind of like a 3 or 4 different bar to symbolize like a wireless, and you can just take a credit card and wipe it over it. Instead of having the black strip on the back and you have to slide it in between the two pieces, you can just wave it. Well, Wells Fargo is wanting to do something very similar here. Let me share it with you. Check this out. It is microchips in their cards. What they're wanting to do is the pilot program announced today marks the first effort by a major U.S. bank to deploy Visa Inc. credit cards with the EMV chip, which is a standard already in Europe and the rest of the world. That's one of the things that most of you aren't aware of, and I have to get the article pulled up here for you guys, but we shared not too long ago
how China's using microchips now.
Yeah, China.
They're putting them in watches. And
China is using a crazy version of it, and I don't know why that.
Well, anyway, let me share what it is, because I guess you don't remember. There was a CNN reporter who was living in China, and he did a video about how China has become basically a cashless society, and they're putting microchips in cell phones, in watches. He had a watch that had a microchip in it, and he could load money, like so much money into it, like a credit card, and all he have to do is just swipe his watch wherever he went to pay for anything. This is what they're wanting to do with the Wells Fargo cards.
Now, I'm gonna, I don't know if this video will play properly, but we shared this back January 31st. The wireless RFID chip devices used in China for banking, and I will share that in the chat so you guys can watch that later in your own leisure. And
pretty much in the article also it kind of puts down America, the U.S., saying we're so far behind technology times that we're with North Korea, because North Korea is like the only other country that still uses the credit card magnetic swiping device.
Yep, so I'm going to let this play a little bit so you can watch it.
And they said America needs to step it up and become like the rest of the world.
Oh, yeah. This is actually CNN.
It's just one step closer.
You're seeing this guy talking about his watch. And he's walking, what is this, a Subway or something like that?
He's at a Subway, went to a grocery store.
Look, look at these. They're just wiping their wallets or their watches across it, and it automatically goes directly to your bank account. And see, that was a wallet. His is a watch.
And already they're trying to get these microchips that are put in our hands. This is the next step, getting the microchips into our hands, because they're going to say, well, the watches are too easy to steal, and then somebody can steal your watch and then take your money.
Oh, a lot of people.
If it's inside of you, then there's no way they can take it from you unless they're going to chop off your hand.
Oh, yeah.
But the point is, it's getting you to take this mark, as the Bible says.
Exactly. And I'm not telling you, no, don't go get a watch and go get a RFID.
No.
I understand that today's Christians are going to have a wireless device eventually for a cashless society.
We don't even use money anymore.
But
we use our debit card, our credit card.
But when it involves saying you have to put it inside your body, that is the line. That's not supposed to be crossed. You're not supposed to go and place yourself in some kind of weird scenario like this. It doesn't work. It's completely unbiblical. It's fulfilling a prophecy because the Bible said eventually we'll get to the point where we have to put it in there.
And we can't buy or sell or trade anything without it.
And a good example is terrorists. You know, the Bible's very clear that a third of the population is going to be destroyed. Terrorists and all this other stuff is going to be rampantly crazy. So the most logical thing to do to separate who's the good guy and who's the bad guy, because things are going to be so divided at this point, they're going to want to put something in your body to know that you're this guy. And it's going to be, they're going to think it's the greatest thing because we're taking these little baby steps to getting people used to it. And there are people right now who have...
It's desensitizing
chips.
Society. What they're doing. Desensitizing us. We went from cash, money, to the cards. Well, no, first it was checks. Okay, first it was checks. Then we go to the credit card. Then we went to the debit card. That comes right out of your bank account. Now we're going to microchipped credit cards. Then we're going to go to microchipped, like China is, watches, devices, your phones. Then they're going to want to go farther and farther and farther. And it gets really, really crazy. When do we draw the line? When do, as a faith-based society that follows biblical scriptures and sees what the prophets foretold, say, we have to draw a line here?
And it's a wake-up call, because I talk to a lot of people and say, you're crazy. I'm like, okay, then tell me CNN's crazy. They have a wireless device. That was a wallet.
Yeah. We're not making this stuff up.
That was a watch. I'm not making this stuff up. I'm not talking about Star Trek.
We're not trying to be fear-mongering.
I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to say, this is here.
We're sharing news. That is happening in the world.
So what do you do? How do you not be scared? What do you do to not be scared? Well, if you have a relationship with Jesus Christ, fear should not be in your life. You should not be afraid of the end of the world. You should not be afraid to die.
Nope.
And you should not just be a Christian because you just want a free ticket pass so you don't just die and go to hell. You should want a relationship with Jesus Christ. You should want to make a difference in your world. You should want to change how you live.
Yeah. Because it's clear that time is short for all of us.
You know? Yeah, you're right, El Timo. There was a CNN company. It was a tech company where everyone in their company had, for their top secret or whatever it was, they put a chip in their body so then they could verify it. Once they left the company, it's removable. It's not permanent. Right now.
Yeah.
It's not like attached to your whatever. Now, Miranda has a clip ready for me, I believe.
Can we talk about my article?
Yeah, we're going to talk about your article. It's you talked about this last week.
Well, we talked about it because we shared it on our editorial blog, the Eternal Flame News. But after I wrote it last Saturday and we talked about it, I submitted it to our local paper, the Chillicothe Gazette, here in Chillicothe, Ohio, and on the 13th, on Tuesday, they published it in the newspaper. They published my article, and I was really astounded, and they entitled it, they did change a little bit of it to fit the little section that was allowed for it, but they really kept it all in its entirety. And I'm not going to reread it.
I'm going to try and get it up for everyone.
I'm not going to reread it over because I did share it last week. But I entitled it, Fallen Soldier or Soldier's Death Leaves Permanent Impact on Ohio Town. That's what I entitled it. The Chillicothe Gazette, when they published it, entitled it, Our Freedoms Are Preserved Through the Sacrifices of Others. And It was really astounding. This was the first time that I ever had anything published in a newspaper that I've written. Many people have read it from Chillicothe and say it was really good. My grandfather pushed me to submit it because he said, after I wrote it, he said, that's good enough to put in the Gazette. That's exactly what he said. And so I said, I don't even think they'll even look at it. But I did it anyway because he pushed me, and I said, okay, I'm just not going to get my hopes up. I hope kind of they'll put it in there, but I'm not, going to set my sights on that. I'm just going to just submit and see what happens. And then my grandparents came over Tuesday to visit, and my grandma says, why don't you see if they possibly posted your article? And so we checked on Voices and Views. under the editorial section, and there it was. And all I could think was, I'm in print. I'm in print. I never thought I would be in print my entire life, but there it was, and it was in the paper. We went and got 3 papers to give to some of our family members who wanted a copy of it, and there it is. Right. And it's about a local Chillicothe, Ohio citizen who was in the Army. His name was Staff Sergeant Joshua Geyer, and he died in Afghanistan on March 23rd, and they brought him back here through Chillicothe for a memorial service, and then took him to be buried at Arlington Cemetery yesterday. And I was the only person other than the editors who wrote an editorial about how they felt about his sacrifice. And there it was on page 4, and I couldn't believe it. And I feel I'm humbled, and I'm very grateful that they thought what I wrote was good enough to share with the community. And I thank them for that. So, we'll move on.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. We've been covering how do I want to say it tonight?
Fight back teaching.
No, the unions. And like I said before, I understand unions are good. But there are some people that will say things and want to get things involved in a violent, scary, unbiblical way. Jesus said to love your neighbor. What you will hear from this man and woman will be completely exact opposite. Play the clip, please.
And let's say who the man and woman is.
I will. Play the clip, please.
Well, shouldn't we say who's speaking first?
Just play the clip, please.
Okay, well, the man speaking is Cornel West. And then the woman that will be speaking after him is who? Her name is, last name is...
Frances Fox Piven.
Okay. Here we go.
When it comes to a threat, you see, that what they've been able to do in the last 40 years is to minimize and neutralize the threat, because you can put them to sleep, you can pacify them, keep them distracted, drug invasions, keep them distracted, make sure that music is bubblegum-like rather than deeply soul-stirring, just keep them pacified. But the awakening is taking place, and the scholarship that Frances Fox Piven has done with many others contributes to an understanding of poor people's reality, where the threat is real. And many of us are committed to that threat. So in that sense, Glenn Beck is paying a tremendous compliment to my sister, even though he better not touch her. Tell you that right now, but it's a tremendous compliment, because we are a threat to this oligarchic, plutocratic order, and we're proud to be a threat.
What you could tell in the 1960s, I was working for several years. I was working on the Lower East Side of Manhattan when things were beginning to stir in the cities. The civil rights movement already moving strongly in the South, but in a sense the civil rights movement was coming north. When it came north, it took on a different complexion. Economic rights were more important than political rights, because formal political rights existed in the North. But what I could see in the neighborhoods where I worked was that people were very rowdy, demonstrative, angry. And they were not talking about how to get an appointment with our city council person. They were talking about demonstrations and rallies and riots.
Pause.
They were talking about taking all the garbage in this neighborhood that never gets picked up and dumping it.
You hear this? They both said riots and dumping garbage on people's property. What does this have to do
when she was talking about in the past? This is what they did.
She was talking about in the past, and she says that's what's missing from society today, is how she ends that. Now, I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. I don't think taking someone's trash and putting it on someone else's front door is humanitarian. Let me use a general word. I don't think starting a riot promotes human values. And all it does is promote discord, violence, and chaos. What part of this would any Christian want to be involved with? But I can tell you, there has been churches and organizations and ministries and tell me that these people are okay and there's nothing wrong with what they just said and everything's fine and we're going to go here and we're going to storm in these banks, we're going to do these things. I'm not making this stuff up. I don't think...
This was an interview she did with Grit TV. And the reason why we're talking about this woman is because Jeremy's college promoted her speaking in a church about writing and getting off your butts and going out and protesting the banks.
This happened in a church, and they said.
And so colleges are promoting
but
what
they're
she's
saying,
doing.
The crazy thing is, she said, well, by promoting violence, we're going to help the poor people. No, you're not. You're going to make more poor people because you're going to put someone in jail. Mm-hmm. Someone's going to get hurt. Won't be able to work. I don't think violence is a solution to anything. That's foolishness. Nasty, crazy foolishness. I don't agree with it whatsoever at all. It's crazy. It's nuts. It's vile. It needs to go away. And it needs to go away soon. Now, this last segment, I suggest if you have children in the room to either make them leave, or if you want them to hear about this, be prepared to hear many questions. This will be sexual in nature. Philadelphia has a condom campaign to reach children as young as 11 years old so they can click this little button, click get free condoms, and all you have to do is verify you live in this area and you get condoms. Whatever happened to the sanctity of marriage between a man and a woman, and whatever happened to abstinence, whatever happened to, oh yeah, it's illegal to have sex before you're 18. I remember in Texas, growing up as a kid, I was told if I had sex before I was 18, I could go to jail. 14-year-old boy with a 13-year-old girl, I was told I could go to jail. Forget this whole sex offender thing, because that thing just started. But it was engraved in me when I was 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. I keep my pants on. I don't touch girls. You wait till you get married. And it wasn't just something my mom said. We had teachers talk about it. And we had police talk about it. And depending on what state you live in, there are rules against having underage sex. I'm not talking about a 45-year-old with a 15-year-old. I'm talking about a 15-year-old with a 15-year-old. Why are we changing the rules? Why are we sitting here saying, this is okay, it doesn't matter anymore? Let's just do what we do. Explain that to me. Somebody, please. Because at this point, it makes me angry that I can sit here and go to a website and be told, oh yeah, this is okay. Explain this to me. I'm pulling it up for you. I'm not telling you the name of the website. Having sex, protect yourself, get free condoms. You click it. Check this out. It says, you need to know how to use condoms each and every time you have sexual contact. Here is the key phrase, and I'm going to make this small enough to where you guys can read it, because this is going to freak you out like it freaked me out when I heard it on the radio. And I'm going to highlight this. Playing it safe just got easier. So sex is just a game. You know, playing doctor when you were a little kid. Is that what this is now? It's just a game. We're just going to play with our bodies and play with each other. It's just foreplay. It's just getting to learn who we are. If you live in Philadelphia and here's the other part. If you're between the ages of 11 and 19, you can have condoms mailed directly to you for free. No questions asked. It's only for males, and that's the argument some people are saying. They need female condoms too. They do have a know the risk page. I mean, at least they have this.
My whole thing
they talk about all the STDs. Sure.
My whole thing is, when I was 11, I don't know of any girls that were even on their periods that could even possibly have sex.
I know. I mean, they have all these different health centers.
So why are we doing this? Children do not need to be given this stuff. This needs to be for adults.
And then they have this Zelda guide, health services for youth. And I'm not going to get all into that because it gets even worse. Because it's pretty much a how to have sex guide for teens. Where to go and get tested. Where to go and have abortions. Where to go to just do whatever you want. How's that working for you, world? How many STDs are in the world? How many people are being killed by sexual transmitted diseases? How many kids are being born out of wedlock? How many abortions are happening? It's in the millions.
Across the world.
Even in the United States, it's in the millions. Across the world, it's the millions.
But in America, there's like 100.
There are several million abortions. There's over 1 million abortions in the United States alone.
No, I'm telling you, there's not.
Abortion.
They said, it's over 100,000.
It's over 100,000
a year. Just the U.S.
I'm going to pull up the stats so I can get you this right.
I read something about it, but it's got to be in the millions across the world because.
Oh yeah, and it's getting
in the U.S., in the U.K., in Europe especially, they think there's nothing wrong with that. They promote abortion. They just you have something in your belly you don't want, get rid of it. It's not a living thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think it's really crazy. Here's what we got. Annual abortion statistics. This is 2005. 1.21 million abortions in the United States.
Okay.
Down from 1.29 in 2002. Right there.
I thought it was in the hundreds of thousands a year because I saw something recently that said, stuff like that is down.
Some of it is going down. You want another statistic? They say, it's going down because now people are looking at porn and doing all sorts of crazy, weird stuff. It's crazy. It's nuts. So this is going to conclude tonight's JMC live show. So what is the hope?
What should parents do to protect their children?
As a woman, tell me your thoughts real quick.
As a woman, when I was 11 years old, I wasn't even developed enough to even think about doing anything like that. I wasn't. I was just beginning. I was not. I hadn't become a woman or anything like that. I was still a little girl at 11. I never thought. I wasn't educated about any of that stuff till I was 13 years old. It wasn't even about sex. It was just about how my body was going to change.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we think we need why can't we let our kids be kids? What is so bad about letting children be children today? Is what it comes down to.
Oh yeah.
And why as parents don't we put a stop to this? Say, no, you will not do this to my child. You will not do this. Our children, it seems anymore, they're just wards of the state. The government owns them. You have no right to do anything with your child anymore.
You're right.
What are we raising? Are we raising whores and sluts and stuff like that? To just go out and say, well, here, little kid, here's a condom. Go have some fun. It's just a game. Or are we going to raise them to see that sex and being intimate with somebody is not a game. It is not just something you do for fun. It is something that God created to be wholesome and pure, and that should be done between a man and a woman when they are married. That is the ultimate way to show your love to your husband and your wife. Not just for some fling, not just for some fun.
Oh yeah, they people just don't get it. It's scary. It's nuts. They're not waking up to the real society. And like I said, as a man, you just need to keep it in your pants.
Wow. Please, we're not
Keep it in your pants.
We're not going to end with that tonight, are we?
Yeah, you need to keep it in your pants.
Wow. Okay.
Because you need to wait till you get married. And if you can't, you need to sit here and get guidance from older men and prayer. And if there's a girl bothering you, get away from her. Leave her alone. You don't need that junk. You really don't. You don't need to deal with all that crazy junk that happens in the world. We're going to take a quick break. And we'll return with a Bible study for the podcast. I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight. God bless you. Thank you, podcast members, for listening. Download if you wish. This is Jeremy Miranda Caverley. We are JMC Ministries. This has been JMC Live. I'll be right back for After Show.